The alien's skull made a satisfying crunch under Sarah Chen's boot, a sound that would have horrified her 6 months ago. Now it sparked only a grim smile as she retrieved her makeshift knife from the creature's throat. Violet blood coated her hands, still warm and sticky. The ship's alarms wailed in the background. Guard rotation in 30 seconds. Her earpiece crackled. James's voice was tense but steady. Sarah yanked a security chip from the dead Selkary's uniform. Got the key. Moving to containment section. She sprinted through the curved corridors of the massive harvester ship, her bare feet silent against the cold metal floor. The vessel housed over 3,000 humans, stock, the aliens called them, destined for neural extraction or manual labor across the hegemony's 12 core worlds. For 6 brutal months, Sarah had watched fellow humans disappear into processing chambers. She'd memorized guard rotations, learned the ship's layout, studied the captor's physiology. Now, she was done watching. The door to Containment Block C slid open with a pneumatic hiss. 500 pairs of human eyes turned toward her, some dull with resignation, others bright with desperate hope. "It's happening," she announced, holding up the bloodied security chip. "Right now." Murmurs spread through the cramped quarters. A tall man near the back stood up. "You're going to get us all killed." "The Selkari are already killing us," Sarah countered. "Slowly, piece by piece. I'm offering a chance to die human. Or to live free," James added, appearing behind her with an armful of improvised weapons, maintenance tools, sharpened meal trays, lengths of pipe torn from the walls. Sarah checked her stolen timepiece. "We have 14 minutes before they discover the missing guard. Block A and B are already mobilizing." She raised her voice. "This ship has 6 emergency shuttles. Each holds 100 people. There are 1,800 of us left." The brutal math hung in the air. A skinny teenager pushed forward. "What about the rest of us?" "We fight," Sarah said simply. "We take control of this ship and turn it toward Earth. The hegemony will hunt us," someone called out. Sarah's smile was sharp as a blade. "Let them. Humanity hasn't seen what's been happening out here. When we show them, the hegemony will learn what it means to have chosen the wrong species to enslave." As weapons were distributed, Sarah addressed the group one final time. "The Selkari think we're primitive, weak. They see our empathy as a defect. Today, we show them what that empathy creates when it turns to rage." A woman clutching a metal pipe asked, "How do we win against their technology?" "We embrace what makes us human," James replied. "Adaptability, ingenuity, and a remarkable talent for violence when pushed too far." Sarah checked her timepiece again. 12 minutes. Choose now, shuttle or fight. The crowd shifted, separated. Those who would escape, those who would battle. No judgment in either direction. Sarah turned to James, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. They'd rigged the ship's communication system to broadcast everything that was about to happen across all hegemony frequencies. "Ready?" she asked. "Been ready since they took my daughter," he answered. The first alarms began to sound. 300 humans moved through the ship's arterial corridors like a virus in a bloodstream. Sarah led the front contingent. James commanded the rear guard, and between them flowed a vengeful tide of humanity. The first real resistance came at Junction 9. 8 Selkari guards with pulse rifles took positions behind cargo containers. "Down," Sarah shouted as energy bolts sizzled overhead. 2 humans fell, their bodies smoking from the impacts. Sarah felt the familiar rage surge through her veins, the same rage that had kept her alive when the Selkari had harvested her husband's neural tissue while she watched. "Diego, now," she called. From the shadows above, Diego Reyes, formerly a structural engineer from Buenos Aires, released the maintenance lift he quietly positioned over the guards. 2 tons of metal crashed down, crushing 3 Selkari instantly. In the chaos, Sarah's group surged forward, overwhelming the remaining guards with sheer numbers and savagery. "Take their weapons," Sarah ordered, grabbing a pulse rifle and checking its charge. 17%. Better than nothing. James arrived with the rear guard. We lost 4. Names? Sarah asked quietly. Yoshida, Mbiki, Gonzalez, and the blonde woman who joined yesterday. Erica Hansen. Sarah supplied. She remembered every face, every name. 17 minutes to the bridge. Meanwhile, on the lower decks, a separate battle raged. The shuttles were launching, carrying children, the injured, and those with families to protect. Protecting those launches was a suicide mission that 30 volunteers had embraced without hesitation. Marcus Chen, a retired Marine, led the diversion team. Hold the line. He roared as his team used maintenance tools and stolen weapons to hold back the Excelsior security forces pouring toward the shuttle bay. Alarms shrieked throughout the vessel. Emergency bulkheads began slamming down as the ship's automated systems detected the rebellion. They're sealing the sections, James warned. Sarah nodded. As expected. Anya. A slim Ukrainian woman stepped forward, her face scarred from processing. Before her capture, she'd been one of Europe's top network security specialists. I need 3 minutes at any terminal, she said. They found one in a nearby monitoring station, guarded by a single panicked Selkari who died before he could raise his weapon. Anya's fingers flew across the alien interface. They've adapted their systems since the last ship, she muttered. But their logic architecture is still there. The ship shuddered as bulkheads suddenly reversed direction. We have 20 minutes before their tech specialists lock me out. Sarah's group pushed onward, climbing through maintenance shafts and service tubes when direct routes were blocked. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated as Anya's intrusion disrupted secondary systems. Shuttle Bay reports all 6 vessels away, James announced, reading a message on his stolen communicator. Sarah allowed herself one brief moment of relief. 600 humans would reach Earth, 600 witnesses to galactic atrocity. They reached the final approach to the bridge, a 50-meter corridor with no cover. At the far end, a dozen elite Selkari guards waited with heavy weapons. We can't beat those odds, James whispered. Sarah studied the ceiling. We don't have to. She pointed to the environmental control panel nearby. Remember what the maintenance worker told us. James smiled for the first time in months. Selkari respiratory systems, highly sensitive to pressure changes. The remaining humans prepared for the assault as Sarah and James reprogrammed the corridor's atmospheric controls. On my mark, Sarah said, hold your breath and run like hell. Sarah's lungs burned as she sprinted down the corridor. Around her, humans charged forward while the Selkari guards writhed on the floor, their breathing sacs ruptured from the sudden pressure drop. The ship's emergency systems had already begun restoring normal atmosphere, but those precious 15 seconds were all they needed. The bridge doors loomed ahead, sealed and impenetrable under normal circumstances. But these circumstances were far from normal. Clear. Sarah gasped, finally able to breathe as the atmospheric pressure stabilized. James pushed forward with their secret weapon, Captain Nalvash's severed hand, still dripping violet blood. The Selkari commander had been Sarah's first kill during the initial uprising. She'd made sure to preserve what they needed. The biometric scanner pulsed, reading the genetic signature. With a soft chime, the massive doors slid open. Inside, 7 Selkari officers turned in shock, their elongated faces registering an emotion Sarah had come to recognize as disbelief. Their species had conquered 17 others, but none had ever breached a command center. Impossible, the ranking officer hissed in accented English. Humanity specializes in impossible, Sarah replied, raising her rifle. The bridge erupted in violence. Unlike the guards, the officers were poorly trained in combat. Within moments, 5 lay dead. The remaining 2 dropped their weapons, backing against the ship's main view screen. James secured the doors while Sarah approached the navigation console. The surviving bridge officers watched in mute horror. You cannot operate hegemony technology, one said, mandibles clicking nervously. Your species lacks the neural interface. Sarah smiled coldly. You should have studied us better before deciding we were worth only our parts. She turned to the humans crowding onto the bridge. Where's our pilot? A middle-aged man with a pronounced limp stepped forward. Robert Takahashi had been a NASA flight director before his abduction. For 5 months, he'd volunteered for maintenance duty, secretly studying Selkiri propulsion systems. I can't promise a smooth ride, he said, examining the controls. Just get us pointed toward home, Sarah replied. As Takahashi worked, Sarah addressed the captured officers. Where are the other harvester ships currently operating in our system? When they refused to answer, James stepped forward with a blade. We've learned your anatomy very thoroughly these past months, he said conversationally. There are 17 pain centers in your bodies that won't cause death when stimulated. One officer broke immediately, displaying a star chart on a secondary screen. 6 vessels, all within your solar system. Sarah studied the map, committing the coordinates to memory. Send the broadcast, she told Anya, who had joined them on the bridge. Throughout the ship, humans were securing remaining Selkiri survivors in their own containment cells. The tide had turned rapidly once they'd seized control of central systems. Final casualty reports were coming in. 127 humans dead, nearly 300 wounded, but over 1,400 now free. Broadcast ready, Anya confirmed, activating the ship's powerful communication array. Sarah stepped before the transmitter, her blood-spattered face filling view screens across hegemony space. To all ships of the Selkiri hegemony, I am Sarah Chen of Earth. Your harvester vessel, Abundant Resource, is now under human control. 6 of your shuttles carry witnesses to your atrocities back to our homeworld. This is not a negotiation or a plea. This is a warning. She leaned closer to the transmitter, her voice dropping to a deadly calm. You came to our world in secret, took our people in the night, and thought us too primitive to fight back. That was your mistake. Humanity is coming for what you've taken from us. Behind her, the view screen showed the massive ship turning, its engines flaring as Takahashi plotted a course for Earth. For every human harvested, Sarah continued, we will take one of yours. This is the beginning of your reckoning. She ended the transmission as the ship accelerated toward home. The Abundant Resource shuddered violently, throwing several people to the deck. 2 hegemony destroyers on intercept trajectory, Takahashi announced, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. They're charging weapons. Sarah had expected this. No slave species had ever captured a harvester, let alone broadcast their intentions across hegemony space. The response would be swift and merciless. Where's our weapons specialist? She called. A wiry man with burn scars covering half his face pushed forward. Dmitry Volkov had worked in weapons development before his abduction. For months, he'd been assigned to maintain the ship's defensive systems, a task that Selkiri considered safe for slaves, never imagining humans could understand their technology. We have particle cannons and disruption fields, he reported. But we're a harvester, not a warship. Our shields won't hold against military-grade weapons. The first impact rocked the ship. Emergency lights flashed as hull breach warnings blared. Return fire, Sarah ordered. Dmitry targeted the nearest destroyer. The harvester's cannons were designed for clearing space debris, not combat, but the energy beam that lanced out still scored a hit against the smaller vessel's shields. Again. The second shot penetrated the destroyer's weakened defenses, shearing off a section of its hull. The Selkiri ship veered away, venting atmosphere. James grabbed Sarah's arm. We can't win this fight. Not against their military vessels. We don't need to win, Sarah replied. We just need to survive long enough. She turned to Anya at the communication station. Send the signal. Anya transmitted a short burst of encoded data, coordinates and authentication codes stolen from the Selkiri database. Within moments, alarms blared on the bridge displays. What did you do? James asked. Sarah's smile was grim. I told you we weren't the only ones planning revolt. There are 19 other harvester ships in hegemony space. We just sent them the command codes for their emergency systems. On the tactical display, status indicators for hegemony vessels throughout the sector began flashing red. The captured cell-carry officers chittered in distress as they realized what was happening. "You infiltrated our network," one hissed. "Impossible." "Your arrogance made it possible," Anya replied. "Your species uses the same base encryption across all vessels. Too superior to imagine that primitives could break it." The second destroyer fired again, its beam grazing the harvester's port side. Takahashi executed an evasive maneuver that would have been impossible for the lumbering ship under normal circumstances, but the human pilot had disabled numerous safety protocols. 14 minutes to jump range, he reported. Sarah nodded. The cell carry used a form of faster-than-light travel that required precise calculations. Takahashi had been preparing their escape vector since taking the bridge. "They're launching boarding craft," Dmitri warned, pointing to small vessels deploying from the destroyers. "We expected this," Sarah reminded everyone. "Emergency teams to sections 7 through 12. We hold those corridors at all costs." As bridge crew coordinated the defense, Sarah studied the tactical display. Something was wrong with the destroyer they'd damaged. Its movements had become erratic, its weapons firing at random intervals. "What's happening to that ship?" she asked. James peered at the sensor readings. "If I'm interpreting this correctly, there's fighting aboard that vessel." Realization dawned on Sarah's face. The humans they're transporting. They'd started their own revolt. The wounded destroyer suddenly veered into its companion ship. The resulting explosion briefly outshone the distant sun. A cheer erupted on the bridge. Sarah allowed it for 3 seconds before shouting for order. "This isn't over. Prepare for jump." As Takahashi finalized calculations, the harvester vibrated with increasing intensity. Jump technology was dangerous at the best of times. Attempting it with damaged systems and minimal training was nearly suicidal. "Everyone secure yourselves," Sarah ordered, strapping into the command chair. The stars outside the view screen began to stretch and distort. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality folded around the massive ship as 1,700 human survivors hurtled toward Earth and the war that would follow. Part 5. Return. The harvester ship emerged from jump space 50,000 kilometers from Earth, its hull scorched and breached in multiple sections. On the bridge, emergency systems worked overtime as the humans recovered from the violently unstable transition. "Status report," Sarah croaked, wiping blood from her nose. "A common side effect of untrained humans enduring jump space. We lost sections 9 through 11, James reported grimly. Atmospheric containment failing in 4 more. 36 confirmed dead, possibly more." Sarah absorbed the losses. Each death carved another notch in her soul, another debt the hegemony would pay. "Takahashi, how long until Earth detection?" The pilot checked his instruments. "Their tracking systems should have us already. Military response in approximately 17 minutes based on their orbital deployment. Anya, broadcast on all Earth frequencies. Make sure they can't miss us." As Anya prepared the transmission, Sarah turned to James. "We need to prepare our people. Earth won't understand what's happening. They'll see an alien ship and respond accordingly." "With everything they've got," James agreed. "The shuttles should have reached Earth hours ago, but there's no guarantee anyone believed them." The main view screen showed their home planet, beautiful, blue, and utterly unaware of the galactic community that had been harvesting its population for years. Cell-carry ships had operated with impunity, using advanced cloaking technology and abducting humans from remote areas. Earth governments had dismissed thousands of disappearances as runaways, accidents, or hoaxes. That ignorance was about to end. "This is Sarah Chen aboard the captured vessel Abundant Resource," Anya began broadcasting. "We are 1,400 human survivors returning home. We require immediate assistance and sanctuary. Earth governments, be advised. We are being pursued by hostile alien forces. This is not a hoax. Repeat, this is not a hoax. The message continued on loop as Earth's military satellites undoubtedly tracked their approach. Sarah knew how it must look. An enormous alien vessel, damaged and trailing debris, suddenly appearing near the planet. Multiple spacecraft launching from Earth, Takahashi announced. Military interceptors, by their trajectories. One of the captured Selkiri officers made a sound that might have been laughter. Your own species will destroy you before you can explain. Poetic justice. Sarah ignored the taunt. Dmitri, power down all weapons systems. Make it clear we're not a threat. Should we try to run? James asked quietly. Sarah shook her head. No more running. We've come to warn them. The Earth vessels approached rapidly, sleek fighter craft that seemed primitive compared to hegemony technology, but represented humanity's best defenses. They're targeting us, Dmitri reported. Weapons lock from multiple vectors. Continue broadcasting, Sarah ordered, and prepare escape pods for launch. If they fire, we evacuate. The bridge fell silent as the Earth fighters surrounded the massive harvester, weapons primed. Then, unexpectedly, a new voice broke through on their communication system. Abundant resource. This is General Williams, United Earth Defense. Hold your position. We've received your shuttles and their passengers. Authentication protocol. Confirm the name of the child taken from Nebraska. Sarah exchanged shocked glances with James. The shuttles had made it. Someone had believed them. Lily Watkins, she responded. 7 years old. Taken 3 months ago from her bedroom while her parents slept. A pause. Authentication confirmed. Maintain position. Medical and security teams are en route. Welcome home. As the transmission ended, the first tears since her capture spilled down Sarah's cheeks. James gripped her shoulder tightly. They know, he whispered. Sarah nodded, watching Earth grow larger in their view screen. And now they'll prepare. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been so silent. On the massive screens surrounding the room, Sarah Chen's presentation reached its devastating conclusion. 3-dimensional projections showing the full extent of the hegemony's harvesting operations throughout human space. Over the past decade, approximately 30,000 humans have been taken, she stated flatly. Based on records we retrieved from the harvester ship, less than 4,000 remain alive in hegemony territory. The Secretary-General's face had gone ashen, and Earth governments knew nothing of this. That Selkiri selected isolated targets, used advanced cloaking technology, and ensured no pattern would emerge, Sarah explained. When patterns did appear, they were dismissed as statistical anomalies or attributed to terrestrial causes. It had been 3 weeks since their return. 3 weeks of debriefings, medical examinations, and increasingly high-level meetings as Earth's leadership grappled with the horrifying truth. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and their first contact had been as prey. James stepped forward, his presentation showing the tactical disposition of known hegemony forces. They're coming. Our broadcast sent a clear message, and the hegemony doesn't tolerate rebellion. Based on their standard protocols, we estimate a punitive fleet will reach Earth within 2 months. A military officer, American by his uniform, leaned forward. With what objective? Surely they don't think they can harvest an entire planet now that we're aware of them. Their objective will be extinction, Sarah said bluntly. The hegemony has eliminated 17 species that resisted integration. They call it resource sterilization. They destroy what they cannot control. Murmurs of disbelief filled the chamber. What chance do we have against such technology? Asked the Chinese representative. You've shown us weapons that make our nuclear arsenals look like fireworks. Sarah exchanged glances with James before answering. If we fight conventionally, none. But humanity doesn't need to match their technology. We need to exploit their weaknesses. She nodded to Anya, who activated a new holographic display showing Selkiri physiology, ship design, and tactical formations. The hegemony has grown complacent through centuries of easy conquest. They follow predictable patterns and have critical vulnerabilities we've identified. Sarah highlighted specific points in the display. Their ships require quantum alignment before firing primary weapons. Their commanders always leave from the same position in fleet formations. And most importantly, they've never faced a species that fights back after initial contact. The UN Secretary General studied the information. You're proposing we prepare for war against an advanced interstellar power. I'm telling you the war has already begun, Sarah corrected. We have 2 months to ensure humanity isn't on the losing side. The Security Council chamber erupted in debate. Some nations demanded immediate military mobilization. Others insisted on attempting diplomatic contact. A few representatives even suggested surrender might preserve some portion of humanity. Sarah waited for the arguments to subside before speaking again. While we debate, the Selkiri prepare. They're methodical and thorough. But they've made one critical error. She paused, making eye contact with key representatives. They've given us something no human resistance can exist without. And what's that? Asked the Russian delegate skeptically. Hope, James answered. For the first time, we know what we're fighting against. We've captured their technology, broken their encryption, and most importantly, we've escaped them once already. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. Earth has existed in peaceful isolation, believing itself alone in the universe. That isolation ends today. We face an enemy that has never known defeat, but they face a species that has never accepted extinction. As the council fell silent again, Sarah activated one final display, schematics for weapon systems adapted from Selkiri technology. We don't have much time, she said. Let's get to work. The Nevada desert shimmered under the summer sun as Sarah watched Earth's first quantum cannon power up. The massive weapon, a hybrid of Selkiri design and human innovation, drew energy from specialized reactors buried deep underground. Will it work? She asked, shielding her eyes as the barrel assembly rotated to its firing position. Dmitry Volkov, now heading Earth's Adaptive Weapons Division, checked his tablet. Theoretically, we've improved their original design by 26%. Theoretically doesn't kill hegemony warships, Sarah reminded him. Which is why we're testing it on their scout vessel, Dmitry replied with grim satisfaction. The captured Selkiri scout ship, one of 3 detected and disabled since their return, hung suspended 10 kilometers downrange, its purple-black hull absorbing the desert sunlight. An announcement echoed across the test range. Firing sequence initiated. All personnel clear the area. Sarah, James, and the assembled military observers retreated to the reinforced bunker. Through blast-resistant viewport, they watched as the cannon's focusing rings began to glow with blue-white energy. 3, 2, 1. Fire. A lance of concentrated energy, invisible until it ionized the air, struck the scout ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the vessel's hull material seemed to ripple, distort, and finally disintegrate in a blinding flash. When the light faded, nothing remained of the target except scattered molecular debris. Inside the bunker, silence gave way to cautious cheers. Earth's first test of hegemony-derived weapons had succeeded. James studied the sensor readings. Power consumption was higher than projected. But effective, Sarah pointed out. 6 weeks ago, we couldn't even dent their hull material. Similar tests were underway around the globe. Traditional national rivalries have been set aside, temporarily at least, in the face of extinction. Chinese quantum laboratories collaborated with American defense contractors. Russian aerospace engineers worked alongside European scientists. Even rogue states had joined the coalition, contributing resources and personnel to humanity's defense. Sarah's communicator chimed with a priority alert. Chen, we need you at command, General Williams's voice replied. Long-range detection has found something. 20 minutes later, Sarah and James stood in Earth Defense Command's underground situation room. The holographic display showed a section of space near Jupiter's orbit. 17 vessels, General Williams explained, manipulating the display to highlight the approaching ships. Hegemony signatures, consistent with a standard punitive formation. Sarah studied the tactical arrangement. They're coming earlier than predicted. And in smaller numbers, James added. Is that good or bad? Asked the Secretary General, who had been conducting daily briefings from the facility. Neither, Sarah replied. It means they're treating this as a standard rebellion suppression, not a full species conflict. They're still underestimating us, James concluded. We can use that. The general manipulated the display again. Based on their current trajectory and speed, we have 9 days until they reach Earth orbit. 9 days, not 2 months. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. Are the orbital platforms ready? 6 of the planned 12 are operational, the general reported. The remaining 6 are at various stages of completion. What about planetary defenses? 3 quantum cannon installations are online. Ground-to-space missile systems have been retrofitted with cell-carry targeting technology. Civilian evacuation to hardened shelters begins tomorrow. It wasn't enough. Everyone knew it. But it was more than humanity would have had without the captured harvester and its technology. Sarah addressed the assembled leaders directly. We need to implement Operation Scattered Seed immediately. Several faces around the table hardened. The operation called for launching ships carrying Earth's genetic diversity, historical records, and core technologies to hiding places throughout the solar system. Insurance against extinction. Authorized, the Secretary General said after a brief consultation. And the broken mirror protocol. Sarah nodded grimly. That too. As the meeting continued, Sarah stepped away momentarily, finding a quiet corner of the command center. From her pocket, she withdrew a small holoprojector, salvaged from the harvester ship. She activated it, and a 3-dimensional image appeared. A young man with her eyes and her husband's smile. Almost time, Michael, she whispered to her dead son's image. They're coming back, just like I promised. She deactivated the projector as James approached. Final briefing for the Defense Force commanders in 10 minutes, he said gently. Sarah nodded, composed herself, and returned to the war room. Humanity's first interstellar conflict was about to begin. The Hegemony flagship Inevitable Dominance entered Earth orbit with the casual arrogance of an apex predator. Behind it, 16 warships took position in standard subjugation formation, weapon systems powering up to begin planetary bombardment. Supreme Commander Vex-Har observed the blue world on his view screen with mandibles clicking in anticipation. His orders were clear. Make an example of the rebellious primitives. Ensure no other species would dare challenge hegemony authority again. Begin targeting major population centers, he ordered. Standard extinction pattern. His weapons officer moved to comply, then paused. Commander, we're detecting energy signatures, inconsistent with the species' known technology. Vex-Har dismissed the concern with a flick of his secondary limbs. They've had a few weeks with salvage technology. Nothing that. The flagship shuddered violently as the first quantum cannon blast struck its forward shields. Alarm signals blared across the command center. Shield integrity at 60%. The defensive systems operator reported, his voice rising to a chittering panic. Unknown weapon type. Vex-Har's compound eyes widened. Impossible. Deploy countermeasures and return fire. Before his orders could be executed, 6 more energy beams lanced upward from Earth's surface, striking 3 different vessels in the formation. One smaller cruiser, its shields improperly calibrated, split apart in a spectacular eruption of light and debris. Multiple weapon emplacements detected on the planet's surface, the sensor operator reported. They're using modified hegemony quantum technology. Vex-Har stormed to the tactical display. How could they possibly? He never finished the question. The space around his fleet suddenly rippled as cloaking fields deactivated, revealing 6 orbital platforms that had been hidden using the hegemony's own stealth technology. Each platform immediately opened fire at point-blank range. Aboard Earth Defense Platform Alpha, Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold. "Broken Mirror is working," she reported to command. "Their fleet is in disarray." Operation Broken Mirror, using captured cloaking technology against its creators, had been her strategy from the beginning. The Selkari, accustomed to technological superiority, had never developed countermeasures against their own stealth systems. "All platforms, coordinate fire on the flagship," she ordered. "Ground batteries, target their flanking vessels." The combined assault hammered the hegemony ships. 3 more erupted in nuclear fire as Earth's quantum cannons found their reactor cores. On the inevitable dominance, Supreme Commander Vexhar struggled to comprehend what was happening. Reform the fleet. Concentrate all fire on those platforms. His ships attempted to comply, but another surprise awaited them. Small, stealthy craft, human fighters retrofitted with Selkari technology, swarmed from Earth's atmosphere, targeting specific vulnerabilities in the larger vessels. "Sir, we're receiving transmission from the planet," his communications officer reported. "Ignore it." Vexhar snapped. "Execute emergency jump protocols." "Our jump drive is offline," came the devastating reply. "Direct hit to alignment chambers." The view screen activated without authorization. Sarah Chen's face appeared, her expression cold and determined. "Supreme Commander Vexhar," she said, her pronunciation of his name flawless. "You came to harvest us. Instead, you've taught us. Every technology you used against us is now ours. Every weakness in your systems has been exposed." Vexhar chittered in rage. "You primitives cannot hope to defeat the hegemony. Our empire spans 12 core worlds and 47 subjugated systems." "We know," Sarah replied calmly. "We've transmitted the technical specifications of all your systems, along with tactical weaknesses, to every world in your empire. The rebellions are already beginning." As if to emphasize her point, his secondary communication system chimed with emergency signals from hegemony space, distress calls from dozens of worlds. "You've awakened something you cannot understand," Sarah continued. "Humanity doesn't just fight to survive. We fight to liberate. Every species you've enslaved will know there's an alternative." Vexhar's mandibles clicked furiously. "You'll die with us then." He turned to his weapons officer. "Overload the primary reactor. Take this world with us." The officer moved to comply, then froze as internal alarms sounded throughout the ship. Bulkheads began sealing automatically as the vessel's systems turned against its crew. "I forgot to mention," Sarah added, "we've been in your computer systems since you entered orbit. Your self-destruct protocols have been rerouted." Outside, the remainder of the hegemony fleet was in full retreat, jumping away in flashes of distorted space-time. Only the flagship remained, disabled and drifting. "What happens now?" Vexhar demanded, his arrogance finally giving way to fear. Sarah's expression hardened. "Now you face something the hegemony has never experienced before: justice." The transmission ended as boarding craft launched from Earth, carrying soldiers to capture the flagship and its valuable technology. In the command center of Platform Alpha, Sarah turned to James. "It worked." He nodded, his eyes reflecting the same mixture of vindication and sorrow. "This is just the beginning. The hegemony won't stop with one defeat." "Neither will we," Sarah replied, watching as Earth's forces secured humanity's first victory against the stars. "The galaxy chose us as slaves. They'll remember us as liberators." Beyond the viewport, Earth rotated serenely, unaware that its place in the universe had forever changed. The war that would reshape the galaxy had only just begun, and humanity was ready.